Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, you guys can be better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Dave Benjamin. I'm with the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. We're going to talk about water safety today. Before we get into the presentation, we're going to do a quick survey. How many people in here know how to swim? I'm going to say that's everybody in here has their hand up, knows how to swim. Awesome. How many have been to the ocean? And in Lake Michigan? And in a pool? Okay, good, hands down. You have experience, you know how to swim in the ocean, the lake, the pool. We do the next activity, a pop quiz for you guys. We do it at schools all across the Great Lakes region. We've been to your schools a few times. So far, your school has passed it 100%. Most schools fail it miserably. We ask these three questions so you guys can yell out the answers to these three questions. The first one is, what do you do if your clothes catch on fire?
Stop, drop, and roll.
All right, let's try it one more time. What do you do if your clothes catch on fire?
Stop, drop, and roll.
You know it. You don't have to think about it. What number do you call if there's an emergency?
911.
And what do you do if you're drowning?
Flip, flow, follow.
You guys are excellent. Most schools, even schools we've been to, they still haven't retained it. So we're still working on it. There'll be a few people in the crowd. Some schools we go to, we could have 300 kids in the audience, the auditorium. They'll all yell, stop, drop, and roll. They'll yell 911. But when it comes to what do you do if you're drowning, it'll be silent, or people will be yelling out swim or yell or wave. And unfortunately, the drowning person can't yell or wave. And we'll see that in some videos coming up. So, I didn't know is the number one thing that we hear from family and friends of drowning victims. We created a short public service announcement. I didn't know. I didn't know that I could drown because I know how to swim.
I didn't know
anything about rip currents in Lake Michigan. I didn't know anything about red flag warnings in Lake Michigan.
I didn't know there were rip currents in the Great Lakes. But then I came to this realization that this is how I'm going to die. I didn't panic, but it was just disbelief. Like, oh my God, how can this be happening?
I didn't know about the power of offshore winds and upwelling.
I didn't know what drowning looked like. I assumed that it was waving and yelling because that's what I've seen on television. But in reality, drowning is very swift, very silent, and often very deadly.
I didn't know that drowning is one of the leading causes of accidental death in the nation and the world.
I didn't know that drowning kills more children than earthquake, fires, and school shooters combined.
I didn't know that 80% of drowning victims are male. I didn't know that men are more likely to take risks, more susceptible to peer pressure, more likely to overestimate our abilities in water.
I didn't know that there was a drowning survival technique. Flip, float, and follow.
Flip, float, and follow is an important teaching tool because it's simple.
The stop, drop, and roll for water safety. Flip over onto your back, float to calm yourself down, float to conserve your energy, and then follow the path back to safety.
And because that's just no panic.
I didn't
I
know.
didn't know. But now you know. So I didn't know is the number one thing that we hear from family and friends of drowning victims. For me, I didn't know that I could drown because I know how to swim. I've been swimming in Lake Michigan going on 49 years now. Since I could crawl, my parents have had me in water at the public pools. They've had me on the beach. There has not been one summer in my life that has gone by that I haven't been in Lake Michigan. I even lived in California, near Huntington Beach, California, for 2 years. I was well versed in the surf environment there. In 2010, I had a drowning accident. This is Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan, sir. This is Chicago, Illinois, near the Museum of Science and Industry. This is near the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana. We can get some great surfing conditions if you know when and where to go. But with any extreme sport, accidents do happen. And this is my story.
December 26, 2010, I was surfing in Lake Michigan. A lot of people aren't familiar with surfing in Lake Michigan, let alone surfing in the winter in Lake Michigan, because it's cold and it's a day after Christmas. And the ice floe was starting to come into the lineup where the waves were breaking. And I started getting a little nervous. And I was thinking, it's probably time to get out. And I'm gonna catch one more wave and I'll be done. And I look over my shoulder and it's like right there. It's a big wave, it's peaking up, and I commit late. What happened is this wave is pushing over, and as I'm committing late, it catapults me and I land flat on my back in the water. And then the next moment, the wave crashes down on me. And it's like the wind knocked out of me, I got water pouring in my face, coming in through my suit, flushing me with 30-degree cold water, pushing me to the bottom, and I immediately panic. It's a shock to the body, I can't breathe, I'm being held underwater. And I noticed that my surfboard leash is not tugging on my ankle, and realizing that my surfboard, my security blanket in the water, my flotation device, I'm without. And I make myself up to the surface, and I'm about to try and take a breath, and another wave closes out on me and pushes me to the bottom. And complete panic. All my years of swimming in Lake Michigan, at that point in my life, 40 years, is out the window. It's complete panic. I get to the surface. I try waving to my two buddies I'm surfing with about 200 yards out. I put my hand up and try to yell, but I'm choking on water, and when I put my hand up, it increases my body weight out of water and pushes me back under. And I'm going underwater, and I'm holding my last breath, and I'm thinking, this is it for me. There's going to be a knock at the door. My parents and my children and my wife are going to be finding out that I died surfing in Lake Michigan. And also in the same moment, I had this memory recall of an article called "Drowning Doesn't Look Like Drowning" by Mario Vitone. And in the article, they describe what the signs of drowning is. It's facing shore, mouth of water level, the head tilted back, hyperventilating, doing this climbing ladder, motion ladder. And I realized I'm doing all these signs of drowning. The more that I'm struggling to stay above water, the more I'm sinking and dying and drowning. And I got to the surface of the water, I put my arms out and my feet up, and I floated. I realized I can survive this drowning accident with this wetsuit. I can float, I can stay at the surface. The next problem is these waves are pushing me into the rock wall, where my surfboard is being thrown against it. The rock wall is about 15 feet high, it's all iced over, and I'm thinking I might not survive that. And I'm realizing, okay, so I got to backstroke, I got to get away from this wall. And as I'm backstroking away from the wall, the waves are pushing me back into the wall. And then when I get close to the wall, there's a current that's pulling me further out. It took me 40 minutes to get out. And when I crawled out, I'm going to do a community project to promote the signs of drowning.
So I'm here today because I survived a drowning incident, and it was after that event that I dedicated my life to water safety, creating a water safety school curriculum. Because I said I would, is another nonprofit organization. Their mantra is promises made, promises kept for the betterment of humanity. They give out these business cards and you write your promise on there, like I will diet and exercise because I said I would, or I will not text and drive because I said I would, and I wrote I will dedicate my life to water safety and a water safety school curriculum. And then they followed up with me and we did that video. There's actually, it's only half of the video. But because I said I would, it's been a great tool to keep me going, to continue to do these water safety school presentations. After the drowning incident, I connected with Bob Pratt, and we put our heads together and we created the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. So we have 4 key areas that we work. We track the drownings in the Great Lakes. We teach Great Lakes water safety. We work with family and friends of drowning victims to advocate water safety. We also provide open water surf lifeguard training and first responder water rescue, water resuscitation training. So I mentioned we work with family and friends of drowning victims, and this is the hardest thing that we have to do. someone contacts us because we didn't get them the water safety information in time. This is John and Kathy Coker. They live in Tinley Park, Illinois. This is their 15-year-old son, Matthew. They created the Matthew Coker Foundation after he had a drowning accident. Matthew was 6'4", 243 pounds. He was huge. Played football, basketball, volleyball. He was a straight A student. He also was a strong swimmer. He grew up with swimming lessons. He knew how to swim. The problem, he just didn't know what to do in a Lake Michigan rip current. This is 15-year-old Lexi Dew, who was in Chicago, their last day of school. They walked to the beach after they got out of school, the day before lifeguards went on duty. Small waves, 1 to 2 feet. She was smart, but she wasn't as strong of a swimmer. She didn't know that these break walls that they have in the beaches in Chicago have currents that pull out, even with 1 to 2 foot waves. Unfortunately, she got in water over her head and her break wall was pulled out in a current and didn't make it. And this is Tyler Bushek. It was the summer between his 8th grade and freshman year of high school. He was the 8th grade valedictorian here. It was Labor Day weekend. He was smart. He was athletic. He was the incoming freshman quarterback. Knew how to swim, but unfortunately didn't know. So we're here today to honor the memory of those who have passed in Great Lakes drownings. Over 631 people have now drowned in the Great Lakes since 2010. So we have 631 stories that are just like these across the Great Lakes. So I'm here today because I dedicated my life to water safety. I'm here today on behalf of families of the drowning victims to advocate water safety. And I'm also here for you guys. I'm here to give you simple information that may save your life or the life of a loved one. And I'm also here to personally tell you I don't want to meet your parents. Nothing personal. I just don't want to meet them in the capacity that I work with the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project, because if I meet them in that capacity, it may be because there was a tragedy. So this is an opportunity for you guys to listen up, pay attention. The information that I will share is not complex. It's not math formulas. It's not abstract thought. It's simple information that really we want to make is understandable as stop, drop, and roll. You don't have to think about it. You know it. So when we look at the survey work everywhere in the United States, just about everyone knows stop, drop, and roll in 911. But the large population does not know what to do if they're ever struggling in water over their heads. And we advocate flip, float, and follow. We'll go in depth on that in a few minutes. You guys have had fire drills, tornado drills, school shooter drills, even earthquake drills in many states. Illinois and Indiana, in many schools, they do earthquake drills. And as far as I know, in my lifetime, there has never been a fatal earthquake in Illinois or Indiana. Yet they do these drills. I'm not opposed to these drills, but we must understand the big picture of drowning. It's likely that each year, more school-aged children will die drowning than fires, tornadoes, school shooters, and earthquakes all combined. We know, see, hear the conversation about school shooters and safety. It's very, very important. But more school-aged children will die drowning than in school shooters. So we need to elevate water safety to the standard of other public safety programs. So the big picture is that drowning continues to be a neglected public health issue. And this is according to the World Health Organization. So we need to recognize drowning as a public health issue, because until it's really recognized as a public health issue, it won't get the funding that Zika virus and West Nile virus and malaria and other public health issues get. Because there's very, very little for water safety. On average, one person every 90 seconds somewhere in the world will die drowning. That's 40 people per hour. That's over 400,000 people per year. That's a huge number. Narrowing down the scope of the drowning statistics, do you have brothers or sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins in the 1 to 4-year-old range? You guys need to understand that drowning is a leading cause of accidental death for children 1 to 4. We need to understand that you guys, your generation, has been buckled in since birth. What does that mean? I have 3 children, 24, 16, and 8. And when each one of them were born, we were escorted out of the hospital to the car to make sure we have an infant carrier seat, babies properly strapped in, properly fitted into the car. We don't do that with water safety. More children 1 to 4 die drowning and in car accidents. For children 1 to 14, drowning is the second leading cause of accidental death, second only to car accidents. For the nation as a whole, it's the fifth leading cause of accidental death. So it's a huge problem that's not getting the attention that it deserves. As I had mentioned, 631 drownings in the Great Lakes since 2010. On average, the information you guys really need to know, on average, almost half of all Lake Michigan drownings, all Great Lakes drownings, happen in Lake Michigan. So Lake Michigan is the deadliest Great Lake, and we live right on its shores. We're not trying to scare you guys out of the water. We're just looking to give you the simple information, the research, the statistics, so you guys can make wiser choices when you go to the beach. Drowning victim, who's drowning more, boys or girls?
Boys.
Boys, you guys are pretty unified. You might have remembered it from the public service announcement. 80% of all drowning victims are boys. 4 out of 5, that's a huge number. Why? He said we're more pressured into doing stupid things.
They're more, they take more risks and are more susceptible to peer pressure.
Good, take more risks, susceptible to peer pressure.
They're like animals, they're trying to show off to some of the girls.
We're animals, want to show off in front of girls. Real quick, last one.
They got like their tests and resources. They don't wait for things like
Okay. So he says we've got the nerve to do things, which is a guy point of view, but some people, especially girls, often will say that guys are stupid. I don't want to advocate that guys are stupid. We want to understand we don't know what we don't know, and you guys nailed it. Men are more likely to take risks, more susceptible to peer pressure, more likely to overestimate our abilities. This is just our nature, guys. This is why we're 80% of the drowning victims. In addition to that, the Red Cross did a report. They did this survey. They had women estimate their swimming ability, and they tested them on it. They had men estimate their swimming ability, and tested them on it. Women estimate their swimming ability with almost 100% accuracy. That means they are far less likely to put themselves in danger in the water, whereas guys, we failed miserably. We overestimate our swimming ability by about 50%. So this is our baseline. We're risk takers, peer pressure. We overestimate our abilities, and when we get to water, we double down another 50%. The important takeaways to get from this information is, guys, don't dare your friends to get in water over their head. Don't dare them to jump into the deep end of the pool, or jump off the pier or the rocks into the water, or swim out to the swim buoy. Unfortunately, these types of dares have caused deaths in the Great Lakes region. So we want you guys to understand, don't dare your friends. Know your true swimming ability.